The village of Benares nestled amongst the foothills of the Himalayas. Ancient and shrouded in mist, it held secrets in its heart. Whispers of forgotten gods and ancient rituals hung heavy in the air. The villagers were a superstitious lot, their lives governed by the rhythms of nature and the whispers of the past. Rohan, a young man with city dust still clinging to his clothes, returned to his ancestral village with Meera, his new bride. He longed to rediscover his roots, to find peace in the embrace of the mountains. Meera, with her city-bred sensibilities, was apprehensive. She felt the villagers' watchful eyes, sensed the weight of unspoken stories. A sense of foreboding settled over them as they approached the outskirts of the village. The air grew heavy, laden with the scent of damp earth and something else, something ancient and unsettling. The villagers, their faces etched with a mixture of curiosity and fear, watched their every move. "Don't worry," Rohan whispered, squeezing Meera's hand. "It's just the mountains. They take some getting used to," but even he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss, something that lurked just beyond the veil of the ordinary. Rohan's ancestral home stood at the edge of the village, where the forest began its silent encroachment. It was a sprawling structure, its once bright walls now muted with age and neglect. The windows, like vacant eyes, stared out at the world. They seemed to hold a lifetime of forgotten memories, both joyous and sorrowful. As they stepped across the threshold, a shiver ran down Meera's spine. The air inside was heavy with the scent of dampness and decay. It was as if the house itself was breathing, each exhalation carrying with it the weight of the past. The house was filled with shadows, even in the daytime. The furniture, draped in white sheets, resembled ghostly apparitions. There was a palpable presence in the air, a sense of being watched, of being judged. Meera yearned for the familiar comforts of their city apartment, for the reassuring hum of traffic and the distant sounds of laughter. Here there was only an unnerving silence, broken only by the creaking of the house and the rustling of leaves outside the windows. Days turned into weeks, and Meera slowly began to acclimate to her new surroundings. She helped Rohan clean and air out the house, their laughter echoing through the empty rooms. She befriended some of the village women, their initial apprehension giving way to cautious acceptance. Yet the unsettling feeling persisted. Meera would often catch glimpses of shadows moving at the edge of her vision, fleeting figures that vanished as quickly as they appeared. Objects would move inexplicably, a book misplaced, a chair slightly out of place. One evening, as Meera was dusting a bookshelf in the library, she came across a small wooden box tucked away in a corner. Curious, she opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, lay a leather-bound journal. The journal was old, its pages brittle and yellowed with age. The writing, in an elegant script, was in a language Meera didn't recognize. She showed it to Rohan, who examined it with a furrowed brow. "It's Sanskrit," he said finally. "My great-grandfather's journal. I didn't know it still existed." That night, Meera had a vivid dream. She was in the forest, surrounded by towering trees that blotted out the sun. The air was thick with the scent of decay and the sound of unseen creatures moving through the undergrowth. In the center of a clearing stood a shadowy figure, its form shifting and changing like smoke in the wind. It spoke to her, its voice a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate in her bones. It spoke of a forgotten ritual, a sacrifice that had to be made. Meera woke with a gasp, her heart pounding in her chest. The dream felt so real, so visceral. She could still feel the oppressive weight of the forest, the chilling gaze of the shadowy figure. She tried to shake off the lingering unease, attributing it to her surroundings and the strangeness of her new life. But deep down, a seed of fear had been planted, a fear that something dark and ancient was stirring in the shadows of the forest. Section 5. The Forbidden Ritual. Over the next few days, Rohan immersed himself in the journal, painstakingly translating its faded script. As he delved deeper, his brow furrowed, and a look of unease crept into his eyes. The journal, he discovered, detailed a dark chapter in his family's past. Centuries ago, his ancestors had struck a bargain with a powerful entity that resided in the forest. They called it the Dweller in the Woods, and it demanded a blood sacrifice every year during the darkest hour of the year, a period known as Kali Samvatsara. The ritual, the journal claimed, ensured a bountiful harvest and protection from harm. It spoke of dire consequences should the ritual be neglected or performed incorrectly. But a century ago, Rohan's great-grandfather, a man of science and reason, had denounced the ritual as barbaric superstition. He forbade the villagers from ever performing it again. As Rohan learned more about the ritual, a sense of dread settled over him. He noticed a change in the villagers' behavior. Their initial warmth had given way to a wary suspicion. They whispered behind cupped hands, their eyes darting nervously towards the forest's edge. Then Meera fell ill. Her once vibrant health deteriorated rapidly. She was plagued by nightmares, the shadowy figure from her dreams, haunting her waking hours. The village healer, an old woman with eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom, examined Meera and shook her head gravely. "This is beyond my abilities," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Something dark has its hold on her." She looked at Rohan, her gaze filled with a mixture of pity and accusation. "You have angered the Dweller in the Woods," she said. "Only a blood sacrifice can appease it now." Torn between his modern sensibilities and the weight of his ancestors' actions, Rohan found himself at a crossroads. He refused to believe in such superstitions, yet he couldn't ignore the journal's warnings, the villagers' fear, or Meera's deteriorating condition. He confided in Old Man Hemant, the village elder, hoping for a rational explanation. Hemant listened patiently, his weathered face etched with concern. "The Dweller in the Woods is real, Rohan," he said, his voice low and grave. "It is a force as old as these mountains themselves. Your great-grandfather's arrogance in defying it has brought this curse upon us." Hemant explained that the ritual demanded the sacrifice of a life willingly given, a life connected to the lineage that had broken the pact. Rohan's blood wasn't enough, not anymore. The Dweller demanded a life untouched by the village's fear, a life pure and innocent, a life like Meera's. The weight of the world seemed to rest on Rohan's shoulders. He was trapped between his love for Meera and the terrifying reality of the situation. The villagers, their faces a mixture of fear and desperation, looked to him for salvation. Their pleas for action echoed in his ears. Days turned into sleepless nights as Rohan struggled with his decision. He couldn't sacrifice Meera, but could he condemn the entire village to the Dweller's wrath? Was there another way, a way to appease the entity without resorting to such barbaric practices? As Meera lay in their bed, her breathing shallow and her skin clammy, Rohan knew time was running out. He picked up his great-grandfather's journal and began to read, searching for any clue, any glimmer of hope. The journal detailed the steps of the ritual meticulously, outlining the chants, the offerings, and the precise location within the heart of the forest. But as Rohan read, he noticed something he had missed before, a small inscription at the bottom of the last page. It spoke of an alternative offering, a symbol of pure love and sacrifice that could appease the Dweller. It was a risky proposition, never attempted before, but it offered a glimmer of hope. Driven by love and desperation, Rohan set out into the forest, guided by the journal's instructions. He wasn't sure if the alternative offering would work, but he had to try. He had to save Meera. He had to save his village. As he ventured deeper into the forest, he felt a presence watching him, a palpable force that seemed to emanate from the very trees themselves. The fate of the village, the life of his beloved Meera, hung in the balance. The air crackled with anticipation as Rohan, guided by love and fueled by desperation, prepared to face the dweller in the woods.